glad you guys found this video and clicked, so welcome. But before we get started, I forgot to mention some very important disclaimers. Everything that was mentioned, both from me and Darren, are our own opinions. They do not represent our current workplace, our past workplace. We are being brutally honest in a lot of points of this video. All of that is to help you guys try and navigate the accounting world and hope that it's helpful in helping you decide where you feel like you might belong. Because I remember graduating college and being like, oh my gosh, where am I supposed to work? What are the benefits? And most of the perks that you look for in any job are not in the job description. You kind of have to know somebody to know what the real deal is up with these different workplaces. But anyways, I'm rambling. Let's get on with the video. All right, you guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heaven. If you're new here, I'm a state auditor, and that is where I met Darren, who is one of my, I would say, longtime friends. But we've been friends for a couple years through state audit, and a lot of you guys ask me all kinds of questions over the years that I've had my channel about certain accounting routes or different jobs, and I haven't really been able to answer them too well because I strictly only have experience as a state auditor aside from my internships that I had. But Darren here has worked several different accounting jobs over the past several years, so he's able to bring you guys some valuable insight that I feel like you would appreciate. So I wanted to bring him along as a featured guest. You guys may remember him from one vlog that we did way back a long time ago. I had to go to Nashville for this training. It was like the craziest week that I've ever had, and Darren was in that video, and it was really funny.
And the napkin flew away.
Yeah, and we were like singing the Lion King song or whatever. It was real goofy. But I do have a little bit of notes here to somewhat stay organized so we just don't go rambling. But it is going to be really casual. We don't really have a strict outline or anything. So I'm just going to let him talk about the different jobs he's had within accounting, and hopefully it'll help you guys. I'm really excited to see him in general because it's been so long. It's been like over a year during COVID, and the fact that he like doesn't work here anymore. So it's like I won't even see him at work when I go to Nashville, since I do live here in Knoxville. But anyways, Darren, go ahead and give them a little background of the different jobs, your little career journey.
Well, first I started off as a cost accountant in a manufacturing plant. Then I moved to Nashville to work with state audit with Heaven. Then I left state audit to go work for a Big Four firm, and this was the internal side of that public firm. Then realized how unhappy I was, went back to state government, then COVID happened, which...
It's been like a crazy couple of years.
Yes, right. So COVID happened, I ended up with the federal government, specifically the Federal Reserve.
He's literally worked in several different industries within accounting, so, and he worked there in the higher education, I would say, so he was audited, but still in state government. So
right.
It's like a really, you got to see both sides. So I guess I'm just gonna bring up some random topics that I feel like I would ask if I was watching this video. So talk a little bit about the different pace of work within like the different jobs that you had, as far as like being busy all the time, or things were slow, or dead periods, things like that.
All right, so as a cost accountant, I was the most busy near the end of the month, booking all my entries, and then I was always doing my weekly cost analysis, providing that to plant management, and I was also tracking the engineer's budget, which is about 3.6 million.
Yeah.
So, you know, they were spending some money back then. Then at state audit, Heaven's already gone over state audit, so I go ahead and skim over that.
I do have a whole video talking about what a state auditor does. If you haven't seen that, I get a lot of questions, but that was a very long video that I just chatted about state audit. Anyways, continue.
Right. And then with
the Big Four,
again, it was internal, so I was an expense auditor, and I was auditing the expenses that the public side was incurring. So the corporate card side, the timekeeping side, making sure that they were in compliance. You could call that internal audit, and you could call that compliance. Which
is also two giant parts of accounting that he's been able to sort of take part in.
And then realized how unhappy I was, and also I had another issue. I'll tell you that off camera. Made me reassess things, and I was thinking, okay, I want to go back to state. That was the first time I wanted to come back to the comptroller's office. So I decided to go to this community college, work as a senior accountant. That's where I was
we were auditing at the time.
Yes.
I wasn't technically, but our audit teams were auditing him.
But I knew the guy that was the in charge. Yeah. I knew all the staff on there.
Yeah, let me just say, even the reason me and Darren met was because he's the most social person I've ever met in my entire life, let alone an accountant. And I was new working here at the office, and he saw that I was new and introduced me to everybody that he knew. So that is literally how we became friends. Anyways, very social guy.
It's so funny because I was talking to Heaven about this earlier. that there's a difference between auditing the financials and preparing the financials. There's so much nuts and bolts that go into the preparing side. It's like, it feels like you have to change your tune slightly. I'm going to be real with your audience now. Can I be real?
Yeah, you can be real. So you want to be.
It's
different. It's really different.
I can't do it. I mean, I'm being silly about it, but there's a difference, and whew.
And you having the background of being an auditor, I feel like you would understand even what they're auditing or what they're asking for, whereas that is a problem a lot of auditors have, is when the staff doesn't really understand why we need to see certain things, but also we don't understand what goes into the preparation of it to know how much work or all the different schedules that go with it, so we really don't even know what to ask for some of the times. So the fact that you've seen both sides, I feel like really makes you super well-rounded on that end.
So with COVID, I figured
Never waste a crisis.
That's what they say.
Exactly.
Take advantage of every moment.
I figured, I just was looking around and the Federal Reserve was an option.
And you knew he liked government, so
Right.
you wanted to stay within government.
I wanted to go back to government for sure. And that was the second time I considered going back to the comptroller.
Comptroller was good, y'all.
And every state is different. It makes me sad when a lot of you apply for your state position or you're trying to get a job within your state and it's absolutely miserable or you don't like it. But every state is different and I don't think I would be as happy in most other state governments. But Tennessee's really well organized and they've been doing this for a really long time. So I appreciate that as an employee.
Now, with the Federal Reserve, because the Federal Reserve Act makes the Fed independent, it's independently funded, so the next shutdown that happens in about post-election season, we're not going to be affected. We're not affected by any pay freezes. We're not affected by Congress, no matter what party's in charge.
Go vote.
It's very different because in order to audit the Fed, we have to figure out what our criteria is.
Yeah.
What are the standards? The Fed is exempt from a lot of those standards. Now, we have some voluntary compliance. We have to approach auditing different portions of the Fed differently.
Yeah, and I feel like which I haven't worked at all in federal, so I don't know. The state auditing is definitely more outlined and more clear as far as like what we do. So as far as if you feel intimidated on your first job or what's expected of you or the actual audit steps you're gonna do, I feel like it's very clear cut with state, but federal level does seem to be more convoluted.
Different agencies are a little different as well because the independent agencies that are funded outside of congressional appropriations are, one, FDIC. They're funded through fees that they charge the banks, and the Office of the Comptroller of Currency. They charge the banks with national charters different fees, and then that's how they're funded. And then the Fed charges the reserve banks, specifically the Board of Governors charges the reserve banks. Again, it's all independently funded, and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. I think I got that right.
There's a lot of acronyms in federal.
I know, right?
You have to like study them all, like vocabulary tests. You're like doing a matching,
Right.
like, okay, I got it.
Right. So the Bureau, they are funded through a portion of the money that the Fed funds itself with. So it's like they're as independent as you can get.
Which is really good, especially for the citizen who's like, are they auditing themselves?
We are peer reviewed. We have a financial statement audit conducted by KPMG, one of the big four firms. We have the OIG, which is where I'm a part of. And then GAO can conduct audits on the Federal Reserve as well.
Who has the yellow book?
Yes, they make the yellow book. That's right.
The book is yellow. If you guys are not in government, you're like, what the heck is a yellow book? And the green book.
Oh yeah, the green. There's a red book too.
Yeah, the government keeps it by the color of the book. I got the blue book last year. I felt really honored. I put it on my bookshelf to look fancy. I'm going to switch on over to, well, this is kind of a similar topic, but for your different jobs or different industries, how was the expectations out of you or the stress that you felt? And that has a lot to do with just management in general, so it's not necessarily going to be the industry. I guess your stress level.
As a cost accountant, the stress came near the end of the month, trying to wrap up the financials, book the entries, get the reports out, and get the end of the month cost variance report out. But the rest of the month is cruising, same 40 hours.
And that's how a lot of our clients are at the end of each month. That's when they pick up more work because they have different reports they have to run like at the end of each month. So that's kind of, I feel like, probably typical internally industry job probably.
And go look up Heaven's video on all the state audit goodness.
Yeah.
At
The Big Four.
because it was internal, there was a little bit of fluctuation. It depends on the workload, or depends on what cases I was working on at the time.
Yeah.
So,
And he wasn't like out auditing because he was working internally, so they worked a lot more hours that you hear about in public accounting. So he literally got the best of both worlds because he like works at the firm but like doesn't have to work all those hours. So it's pretty nice.
then at
The Community College.
this is a culture thing, but it was a very stringent schedule. It was 8 to 4:30, about Monday through Friday, no flex. You can't take leave randomly. You can't play with your hours as much, but you could do a little bit.
Makes it a little comfortable there a couple of weeks. Yeah, our schedule, that is like one of the biggest perks. And now busy season right now, I am working more hours than usual. On the off season, take a day off here and there, and I really appreciate that. Not all of our divisions are like that though, so I feel like I can miss Steek when he had to work a more strict schedule. I remember he was telling me that, and I was like, I don't know if I would survive until 5 o'clock. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen 5 o'clock on my work computer. Worked late today, but
I go to the Fed and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, they're so flexible here. Like
treat us like adults.
I know, right? They're very accommodating. Like before I even got there, they were asking, all right, what do you need? Do you need a monitor? All right, make sure you do this, this, and this to get a monitor. Do you need a hub
nice.
for your computer? So, all right, you got to fill out the paperwork.
They love paperwork.
Everything's gonna be documented.
Oh yes, but if you get the paperwork through, they'll back you up and they'll support you. That's something I have to commend the Fed for.
Yeah.
And they have been on a strict telework policy. There were some divisions that were telework the entire time, pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And then
Never even met those people.
exactly.
Who is this guy?
And then there's some divisions that were partially telework, but now we've been on full telework since March. I'm
And
thinking
he's based out of DC, but upon hire, he was able to stay within Nashville with all of his friends and everything until he actually goes back to physically work. Because otherwise, why would you move somewhere and telework?
Exactly, and they were just so accommodating. They said, okay, you have 2 months. When we officially open the office, move to DC, get settled, etc.
Yeah, you're able to like do some research and not just randomly move somewhere that's like not a good neighborhood or something.
Right, when I moved to Nashville, in fact, it was like I just had to pluck myself
Yeah.
there, and that was it.
I have an entire video planned where I'm going to explain how I moved to Nashville and lived with people off Craigslist. So stay tuned for that. Got sent to Memphis on literally my second day of work.
If I had to rank all the jobs from lowest stress to highest, I would say the Fed, state audit, depending on busy season.
Yeah.
Right, and then cost accounting job, and then Big Four.
But then like your pay scale, which you don't have to say an amount, but
Oh dang, where did we leave
I
that?
know I forgot. Sorry, the camera was dying and I had to replace it. Now we forgot where we were. Oh yeah, the pay scale about your
Yes.
different jobs.
So I'm going to just go ahead and share it, except for my Federal Reserve job. When I first started, it was 42 at the cost accounting gig. State audit.
And this was you got to give years too, because
Oh yes, 0 years. So right out of college, 42. Then I moved to Nashville. It went to 44. Then I've
was
had.
with us.
It was with the comptroller.
which we've given a raise to all of our new people just recently, which is really good. If you guys are in college looking for a job, we're trying to be competitive with the local firms.
And then I had raises all the way up and during my time there. It was pretty consistent. And then I actually had the 10% raise before they did the restructure. So then that was cool.
Like that.
And then at
The Big Four.
that was when I was bumped up to 60. Then I took a pay cut at
The Community College.
to 55. And
But
then
at
I
those hours, you were like, heck yeah, I got
Oh,
some
yeah.
days off.
Yes.
What is that?
I mean,
Saturday?
they may not be flexible with you though.
Yeah, that's
but they'll
true.
give you some
You gotta
days
be here
off.
Friday until 5, but
Yeah.
you don't have to come in tomorrow.
There you go. And then the Fed,
He
So-
is making very good money, I will say. I'm very proud of him. He's grown up.
I know,
He's been
right?
through hell and back with some jobs, but
Yes.
he's sitting pretty. And just happiness overall, I feel like. You're just more satisfied right now.
yes.
And that
having-
really is the most important.
Right, and then having the flexibility that I've wanted since I left the comptroller's office, finally
Very
getting it back.
spoiled.
Oh, the
Take whatever days
comptroller.
off.
They spoil you, man.
Yeah, we're spoiled.
Yes, having the flexibility, man, is just, I can't put a price tag on that.
Where are you within the CPA exam?
About that.
Yeah.
That joker has,
It's so hard, by the way. If you guys are new here, I have done, 2 years of footage about studying for the CPA exam. I got it done in 18 months, I think. Very brutal process.
very brutal. You have to have some grit for that.
Yes.
And for me,
Endurance.
I was able to pass pieces, but then when I did the transition,
The Big Four.
I stopped. I technically didn't even need it for the job.
Yeah.
So then, like, oh, okay.
And it's like when you're working all the time and you're studying, which I know, you have no social life, no family time. And then you're like, why am I living? Like, where
Exactly.
did my purpose go?
And it's
I
like-
struggled really hard with that.
And then
during
it's
studying.
like, you know, me and Heaven being social,
Yeah.
you know, it's just,
It hurts.
It was hard, man.
A lot of time by yourself studying that it's just not meant for everybody. Most accountants, though, can do that, do fine.
Right.
We like to talk to people.
Right.
A lot.
And then at,
the community college,
it was a more stable schedule, I just felt the urge to socialize.
Yeah.
With all this free time. I got the job at the Fed and they don't require it, and I got a significant raise without it. So if I do get it, it's not even required at this point.
Yeah.
So it's like,
He wouldn't really be like bumped up too much with it because he's like having to do things that aren't just like the CPA is all, which is most accounting jobs, but he's in a position that is not everything. So get the CPA would be great, but it's not going to be like you have to get a CPA to work here. So
right. I mean, it'll be a personal goal now, and I'm sure they'll appreciate it if I
Yeah.
did get it.
And I feel like that's what it was for me because I struggled so hard and I failed my first 3 exams, if you guys remember. So it was almost like, I'm going to do this because I feel like I can't. And I was like trying to do it for myself, which where I work, it is, you get a pay increase and you get promotional opportunities. So that was great. But it's still not really required within, I guess, state government anyways.
But to answer your question, it is currently on pause.
Until motivation comes up.
There you go.
Oh yeah, so let's talk about, within each job, you kind of touched on this, but the different promotional opportunities. Did you ever feel stuck or capped out anywhere, like as far as being able to move up?
At the manufacturing plant where I was cost accountant, there was definitely promotional because of the skill set that they liked. Because you could easily be plugged into a financial analyst role.
And that's
Help-
super desirable, yeah.
So if your company has cost accountants, there's a good chance you can slide into the financial
Yeah.
financial
Get your
analysis.
foot in the door,
They're
slide
right.
on over.
Right. Then at the comptroller,
I will
would
say I touched on in my state auditor video, that is a con, I feel like, within our role. Because the turnover is so low, which people love the job, and that's great, there's not a lot of opportunity to move up until someone else leaves, retires, quits, transfers another division. So we have a lot of auditors that are ready for that next step but are unable to get there, and they're working with that. That's been a popular complaint within the office, so they are definitely working with each person. And I think raises have been fine, it's just the position level.
So yep, Heaven pretty much covered state audit. And then at,
the Big Four,
I don't think that there was a promotional opportunity necessarily, title, position wise.
And he kind of had a unique position again in that place.
I would think the raise potential was there. The promotional title changes and stuff, I don't think that was there. Titles don't matter to me anymore.
Yeah.
As a senior accountant at the community college, I would say it wasn't there. It definitely wasn't there.
Again, our client was where he worked. So again, it's the whole low turnover, and it's like when you're hired for this one position, until you're able to train somebody to take that, it's like, where are you going? There's not really going to be much moving up the ladder because of the low turnover.
At the Fed, now this is where things get a little different. I would be eligible for another pay grade bump promotion in about 2 years. After that, it would be another 2 years before I'm eligible. I think 2 or 3 actually. Then I'll be eligible for another one. Once I hit that, that's it in terms of title promotions.
I
But
feel like that's like a popular thing within government. You can like cap out, but it just depends on your personal preference or how long you plan to stay somewhere. Not they're going to go into an interview and say, okay, so here's my 9-month plan.
Right.
All right, can y'all please me for 9 months before I leave?
the salary ranges within that pay grade are so big, can't imagine me capping out
Yeah.
anytime soon. And the Federal Reserve has its own pay grade, so it's not on the GS scale if you're interested in federal government. GAO also has its own pay grade as well, along with the other independent agencies I mentioned.
Government Accountability Office.
Yes.
I like that. That's the only one I know because that's where I get our yellow book.
Right.
The last question, I know this video is getting kind of long, let's just talk about like the dynamic of working either for yourself or in a team or reporting to somebody.
As a cost accountant, I interacted with my senior, and she was the one training me, prepping me, but I had a lot of independence. I would go to my manager, update her on whatever I was working on that day or that week, and roll on. And similar as a senior accountant at the community college, it was about the same deal. And then
The Big Four.
I had a lot more independence. They said, here's your audit.
Here's what
Go
we need
audit.
done. Good luck.
Go audit. And if you need help, here's who you go to for help.
Yeah, you did have a lot of freedom there.
My perspective on the comptroller, it depends on the team dynamic.
Yes, that is
So,
huge.
That would be a huge factor.
Yeah, it's all team dynamic at state auditors.
So now at the Fed, it is specifically the Fed OIG is extremely collaborative. I'm meeting with the equivalent of an in-charge daily. And I'm constantly talking about issues, and they love it when you provide perspective. They like that conversation. I don't know how the other OIGs work, but at the Fed, for sure, there's a lot of collaboration.
And I feel like as an accounting student, I know I've touched on this before, but a lot of accounting students stray away from wanting to work on a team because of all the team projects in college. They're like, I do not want to be on a team ever again. But in the professional environment, these people are hired, they're being paid, they're going to get their job done. And yes, there are slackers in the real world, but I don't think it's anything like college. I mean, these people have food to put on the table, families to take care of. So
Dogs to feed.
yeah, so I wouldn't worry so much about the team environment. But there are people who just cannot or should not work on a team, I guess I should say. So that's all the questions that I kind of wanted to get him to touch on, but I did have some questions on Instagram. I asked some for my story, and I got several questions, and I'll start with, what is the most amount of hours that you've worked in a week?
I would actually say the comptroller, because
Busy
I
season.
think, it was on the biggest audit. I would say the
yeah.
most I've ever worked throughout my whole career was probably 65 hours.
What's the average amount of work
Average,
hours each place?
40.
So pretty standard and expected and great. So you can still have family time, personal time, dog time,
Right.
whatever you're trying to do. Someone had asked why, I guess he or I had ultimately chosen audit over tax, and I was just I'll let you touch on it first and I'll say my own answer really quick. But
So for me,
and he
I
started
went-
out like cost account, which is
Right.
more account, not audit or tax. There's
Right.
not two buckets, there's a whole lot of range with accounting.
Right. I didn't go the tax route because I wasn't given the opportunity to go the tax route.
Do you feel like you would have liked it?
Possibly. I did like corporate accounting. And I
You
like
are very organized with your personal life with Excel and your finances. You
Yes.
might have thrived in tax.
I might have. Yes, and I just was never, I interviewed for positions and they didn't take me. I was just like, okay, well then I'll go find something else until someone does take
Yeah.
me. And the funny thing is, when I applied for that cost accounting job, I was actually in contact with the recruiter in 2016 for the comptroller's office. And
Filling it up there.
I know,
I'm so
right?
glad.
I
You
know,
wanna make
right?
friends.
Exactly.
It's like crazy.
So it's like it all worked out because I was in touch with the recruiter and I just sent my updated resume to her.
For me, I did a tax internship within public accounting, and it was a regional firm, so it wasn't a tiny little mom and pop firm, but it wasn't a big four. And the amount of hours that they worked was literally insane. I could not wrap my head around it. They had cots in the offices that they slept overnight, and we worked a ton of hours. And we got paid hourly as an intern, so we were like rolling in it. But the people on salary didn't get anything extra for the overtime. It was just a bad experience, I feel like, overall. And really, I didn't really love the tax part of it anyways. I didn't like my tax classes. I took both. There was like corporate and individual, and I took them both just to like woohoo, and I hated it. And I took my auditing class senior year and loved it, which thank goodness, because I was a little worried after I hated tax. I was like, okay, maybe I just need to change out of accounting altogether. But again, you don't have to put yourself in two buckets. There's a whole wide variety of accounting positions. Literally every single business that you know has accountants, so it doesn't have to be audit or tax. But I definitely really like audit. I also like working in a team. I didn't think I was going to when I hired on, but I do really well with teams. Last question for Darren. What appealed you to the government after your cost accountant?
Well, I didn't know what to expect when I came to the comptroller. I just knew I was going to be in a different state, different city.
Yeah, you're from,
I'm from Greenville, South Carolina.
yeah, so he moved all the way to Nashville for the job.
6 hours away.
Yeah, which I only moved 3 hours, still Tennessee, pretty lame. And then I moved back, so even more lame.
I didn't know what to expect. I knew it was government, and so I was kind of like, well, let's see. I've heard the stereotype that all government workers are lazy.
Yes.
and
That's what my whole family kept teasing me about. And I was
know.
like, oh my gosh.
So it's like, when I actually came in state government, I was thinking, man, the benefits are like awesome.
Yeah.
Benefits are good, and I used to not have a flex schedule at all.
Yeah.
I didn't have a compressed schedule.
And that
nothing.
really is new within our office recently. And it's even more since COVID and teleworking. But yeah, before it was more rigid. So I didn't know that life. It's always been really flexible since I worked here, and it's really great.
Funny thing is, I was on a travel audit. My second audit was a travel audit. I know it's a cost-saving measure to work 4 days. So I was just working the 4 days, and I was miserable, but then I kept working it after the audit.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I get paid off.
I was like, oh, I can have these Fridays Fridays off, I can go do stuff.
Because we only work 37.5 hours a week, most of our audit teams, especially traveling, because they don't want to pay for that extra night of a hotel, but you work 3 10s and then a 7.5. And so that's just standard where we work, so you get Friday off and you have a shorter day Thursday. Now teleworking, everyone I know works 5-day weeks, plus we're in busy season now, so we're working like 6-day weeks here and there, but
I don't know about y'all. I work with 4-day schedules and I'm
so
off
jealous.
almost every Friday.
oh my gosh, what's it like?
Oh,
It's only
man.
Friday evening right now, guys, so I had to work a 10-hour day and then got to do this interview with Darren, so got them hours in case you're wondering. And I get to use that overtime in the spring and summer and take leave and hopefully go to Africa. So I am thankful for that. That is the one good thing about working overtime. That is all that I have for Darren. It has been a very long video, so if you made it to this point, thank you so much. And please leave some nice little thoughtful comments. He'll probably be reading them. He may answer them if he's feeling in a good mood. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you so much for visiting and getting to do this video. I literally have not seen him in forever. This is like so exciting. But
I'm back, man.
He's here. All right. See you guys next time. Goodbye. And I'll start with at which job did you work the most? Let me start. What's my question? Get those pizza bagels. Someone had asked why we...
Man, what was the question again?
I think we don't have it.